Welcome to 11.5 notes for 8th grade math. Today's lesson is going to be on finding intercepts and using intercepts to graph a linear function. First off, on this one here, it says find the intercepts of the graph. What an intercept is, I get my graph working. What an intercept is essentially where a linear graph intercepts the x-axis. It also is where a graph or a line intercepts the y-axis. All right. So when you're looking for these, essentially, that's what you're doing. Now, if you were to graph them, you could find two different intercepts on the graph, and that should allow you to graph it. Like I said, with lines, you really only need two coordinates to graph a line. All right, so this one here, if you want to find the x-intercept, you have to plug a 0 in to the y value. So 0 in to the y. All right, and then you want to solve for the x value. So if I want to find this, I'm going to plug a 0 into the y. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to solve for the x value. Now, when you solve for the x value, essentially it's equation solving like it always has been. So you're going to go ahead, you're going to add 5 to both sides. So I get a 5 equals 1/2 x. Now, remember, when we talked about 1/2 times x, it's the same as saying divide by 2. So to get rid of a 1/2, you have to multiply by a 2. Essentially, you're undoing the equation. All right? So 1/2 times 2 is going to cancel itself out. You are left with an x value, and that is going to be equal to 10. So the 0, or the coordinate for the x-intercept, is going to be 10, and then the y is 0. Okay, so that is the x-intercept, is 10, 0. Now, the y-intercept is essentially doing the same thing, except for you want to plug a 0 in to the x value. So I'm going to do that. I have y equals 1/2 times 0 minus 5. All right. So 1/2 times 0 is going to be 0. So 0 minus 5 is going to be y equals -5. All right. So you get a 0, and you also get a -5. So there is your y-intercept. Okay. This one's graph a line with an x-intercept of -3 and a y-intercept of 2. Now, notice how here they just give you one value. So really what these are, essentially, are you can turn them into coordinates. So if it's an x-intercept, it'd be a -3 for x, a 0 for the y. If it's a y-intercept of 2, it'd be 0 and then 2. And then as you can see, if you want to graph these to the right here, they graph them both. So really all you have to do is go to those axes, put the coordinate in, and then draw a line on the two different spots. They do give an explanation here, and essentially, like I said, that's exactly what they are doing. Okay, so this one here is a word problem. It says Dina runs and walks with her dog on a trail that is 8 miles long. All right, so I'm going to skip ahead here and take a look at this equation. So basically what this is saying is there's some sort of combination, but that together is adding up to 8 miles. That's why it's equal to 8. It also says she can run 4 miles per hour and walk 2 miles per hour. It says graph the equation. All right. It says where x is the number of hours she runs and y is the number of hours she walks. So those two different combinations are going to take us to 8 miles. It says what do the intercepts represent? All right. So if I want to go ahead and find out, first off, the intercepts, I'm going to go ahead and do exactly what we just did on example 1. So here I'm going to plug a 0 in for the y value. And really, there is an easy way to do this. It's an easy trick. if it ever has something like this where the x and y are both on one side, essentially you can cover up the y, and then you're just left with 4x equals 8. So from there, it's 4x equals 8, and I really just have to divide by 4. So you get x equals a 2, all right? So the intercept there is 2, 0, all right? And then what would that mean as far as what does the intercept represent? Well, first off, let's look what x represents. It says it's the number of hours she runs. So if she runs a total of 2 hours, then 4 times 2 is 8. So that is, since it has to be equal to 8, that is the maximum amount of time she could possibly run. If she were to go over that, there would be more than 8 miles ramp, which is not what we're looking for since it's equal to 8. So the 2 would be the max. Okay, so the 2 would be the maximum hours she could run. Let's go ahead and do the y value. So the y-intercept, okay, now this is, essentially it's very similar to what you just did, but again, we're going to plug 0 for x, and then since we just did the running one, and the other one's walking, well this whatever we come up with here, is going to go ahead and be the maximum hours she could possibly walk. So again, this will cancel out, you get 2y equals 8, divide by 2 on both sides, this cancels, so you get y equals 4. All right, so 0, 4 is our intercept, is our y-intercept, and then again, this is the maximum hours she can take off. So really, anything more or less, you wouldn't be hitting 8. So, and again, 8 is, it's equal to 8, so it has to be exactly 8 miles. Okay, so it says find the exit or the intercepts of the graph of the equation, then graph a line using the intercepts. All right, so this is essentially what most of your problems would be like in your homework. And again, if you have this, one of the easiest ways to do it is just to make an XY coordinate plane. If you feel comfortable, you might have to do a little more math on the side if you're not feeling quite comfortable doing this, but some of you will probably be able to do this in your head. So if I plug a 0, this here would be the x-intercept, this here would be the y-intercept, all right? So if I plug a 0 in for y, I would plug this in, I can basically cross that y out, and then I can solve this problem. So you get 0 equals 2x minus 10, so I'd have to add 10 to both sides, and then I'm going to have to go ahead and divide by 2. So I get x equals a 5. All right, so the x-intercept would be 5, 0. The other one is quite easy. If I plug a 0 in for x, I basically can cross this one out here. If I can get my pen to work, I can cross this one out here. And the only thing you have left is a minus 10, which is negative 10. All right. Now, once you have those two coordinates, it's a pretty easy graph to make. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right down here. Again, you only need 2 coordinates to do a graph. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then down 10. So, all right. So, and then you can do your best to draw a line. And there you are. Okay. So that is my first one. Okay. Let's take a look at 3x plus y equals negative 1. Now on this one, it's a little bit different, simply because it's not in function form. And if you remember what function form is, it's when everything is solved for y, and the left side definitely was. All right, so on function, or on a 1 with non-function form, where there's an x and a y on one side of this equation, you have 2 options. You could put it in function form, or you could just go ahead and sub the zeros directly into x and y. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to make my table like I just did on the left. So I have an x-intercept. I also have a y-intercept. Okay. So put a 0 in here, put a 0 in here. Okay, now again, if you put a 0 in for the y, it's essentially you can cover the y up. You just get 3x equals -1. Now, I usually get a lot of questions on this, and well, can you actually do this? And the answer is yes, you can. Just divide by 3. -1/3 is a completely legitimate answer. You don't have to do anything else there. All right, so you don't have to put a decimal, anything like that. It's just -1/3. As long as it's a simplified fraction, you're good to go. All right, so put in a 0 in for the x. Okay, so if I put a 0 for the x, we go ahead and cross this out. Now, again, if my pen works here, so if I cross that out, I get y equals -1. There's your two values. Okay, so when you put this on a graph, and then another thing that usually pops up is, well, how do you graph -1/3? All right, well, -1/3 is between 0 and -1. So really all you have to do in that is just put a little dot closer to the 0 than the -1. The other one would, of course, be exactly at -1, and then I can draw that line through. Okay. All right, so that was the last example. That concludes 11.5 notes for 8th grade math.